Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. We are covering an overview of the College Station Master's Program. Appreciate you guys bringing your time and making it here. I will forewarn you, I have a cold, so I sound a little deeper today. I may have to stop and get a drink of water, but we're going to plug through this. I've got a lot to cover, and I appreciate your time today to hear from both Matt and myself. We're going to generate some questions during this presentation. So let yourself know you can put those in the chat, or you can unmute at the end of this when I stop recording, and we'll take some questions at that point. So at this point, let's just go ahead and get started with your presenters. So my name is Catherine Meyer. I'm the Director of Graduate Admissions and Recruitment here at the Bush School. Joining me later will be Matt Upton, who is our Assistant Dean for Career and Student Services. Matt will cover specifically the elements of how we work with our students in finding employment and some of the support that we provide. So the agenda today, we're going to keep this pretty streamlined. I'm going to start with our locations, primarily focusing on the College Station location where I work, which is our main campus. We'll also talk about the graduate academic options and the kinds of degrees that we offer, both here, and we have options in DC and online. We'll talk about the master's admissions and what we look like, what we're requiring. We'll also cover the funding that we offer to students and what those costs will look like per year. And then Matt will come in and cover the professional development, the career services, where our students go. And then we'll stop and have some Q&A with you guys if you have any. So we'll start first of all with what is the Bush School. And notice that we are an undergrad and graduate school here at Texas A&M. And so our students who come in, primarily, at least for our purposes, we're looking at the graduate level. We opened in 1997. We have roughly 2,800 master's alumni, and those are the resources that Matt will reach out and try to help network for our students as they're finding employment. Many have now reached that level of their employment where they're doing some of the hiring. And so that makes a great effort, not only for the Bush School connections, but also being able to utilize the Texas A&M larger alumni connection. We offer a number of master's degrees. There are 5 that are offered here in College Station, 2 in Washington, D.C., and there's 1 executive online EMPSA that we also offer if you've got some experience under your belt. There are additionally 6 graduate certificates. These are online and on campus. Some students who are here in the College Station area would also do a certificate to go with their degree because it complements it, and it doesn't take any more money than the application. But we'll cover that later to show you what that might look like. But essentially, we're preparing students for a career in a number of different fields, but it's very consistent that it can be the federal, state, and local government. It's going to be the nonprofits, the international NGOs, agencies with education, environment, security, health issues, all those different areas for policy, particularly in our MPSA. Also, some of the private industry and government contracting, which complement that federal agencies that our students go into. And there's just much, much more. You guys will have a lot of leads on your own. Sometimes you're returning back to your home countries. Others will use those resources of our students and job talks, and even the faculty resources to find those connections. But if you're looking for these kinds of career paths, then you know you're in the right place. For our locations, the main campus here in College Station, this is home of Texas A&M University. You can see where that blue star is on the state of Texas. We're located in what you call kind of the heart of Texas area. This is primarily where all the population in Texas lives, in this part of the state. So we're centrally located to 4 major metropolitan areas. The closest to us would be the Houston and Austin areas. Those are both about an hour and a half away. And then from that, you can branch out a little further. You get to Waco, and then you go even further north, and you've got Dallas-Fort Worth. And if you go to the southwest, then you're going to San Antonio area, where those are both 3 hours away. For the branch campus in Washington, D.C., they opened a number of years ago, and they're located 2 blocks from the White House. So very easy to get on and off the metro to attend. This was basically created to complement the campus here for those that started work in DC and wanted to attend night classes. So this is geared towards working professionals who find themselves in the area and want, again, kind of that public education where it's more affordable and you're getting some great names and experiences from the faculty that they're employing there. The location here in College Station, once again, Texas A&M main campus. This is a huge campus. We're one of the largest universities in the nation. So you can see that the campus is in the far background. The further up, you've got the George H.W. Bush Presidential Library and Museum. We love having our own little kind of campus right here in our area, but it also allows for parking and for ease of students getting here. There's a bus system that runs throughout the community. So students who are living off campus can catch that bus to main campus, and then from main campus, you catch the Bush School bus. It runs a route right in front of the school, as well as Reed Arena, where there's more parking. And so students can get to and from here very easily. There's also some apartment complexes that are within a bike's ride of here. There's even White Creek Apartments, which are down the road, that some students might find as an ease if they want to live on campus. So we've got the Presidential Conference Center and the Bush Foundation to the left. And the Allen Building, you can see where it's written in red there, that's the home of the Bush School. So that is where almost all of our students are going to take their classes. So unless you're taking a course somewhere else through economics or through urban planning, maybe through nuclear engineering, all your classes would be in the Allen Building. So it's easy to get here, be able to find the study area, be able to go to classes and interact with your fellow classmates, which we love that ability here. The community and the rankings. The Brazos Valley, it consists of Bryan College Station. So we call that BCS. This is a population of over 200,000. So this isn't necessarily a small town. It's a medium-sized town, which makes it very easy to get around. You're also built around this university. So you're going to be able to get to and from events. You're going to be able to, again, find that bus route if you are living off campus, or maybe being able to bike to campus. Not going to really be able to walk it. It's a little too far for that. But we are consistently ranked high in economic and social categories for economy, quality of life, growth. And there's a lot of retirees who are coming back to College Station and Bryan area because, again, they want to take advantage of those university events that are happening through the MSC, where they're holding different plays and musicals, and then you've got the sporting events. So it is really a nice place to live. Lots of going on here. And when you're ready to move out and do something a little bigger, maybe there's concerts, you can go to Austin and Houston. They're not that far away. Texas A&M University, we have the largest campus enrollment in the U.S. We're sitting at about 74,000. Now, about 15,000 of those are graduate students. And we're just a small part of that because we're only about 400, maybe a little less than that right now. And so we feel very special in being able to interact with ourselves, the students both in the MPSA, the MIA, the MIP. You've got certificate students who might be coming in from campus. So we feel that camaraderie. So you really get to know each other very well, and we love that part. As far as rankings go, if you're interested in international affairs, there's not really a ranking system for that. We belong to a group called APSIA. That's at the bottom where the logo is, Association of Professional Schools of International Affairs. And we pay to be part of that membership, but we're vetted to be part of that. And they work with us in including a lot of different recruiting activities and networking opportunities. And our not only recruiting, but our career services, they work together with each other. So if a student finds themselves wanting to find a job in North Carolina, we can reach out to them through NASPA or APSIA groups and help make those connections. So while the MIA isn't really ranked, we are considered within probably the top 30 schools in the nation, maybe even in the world, because they include schools all over the world in that grouping. And we're one of about 28 schools listed there. As far as NASPA accredited, that goes along more with our Master of Public Service Administration. They do have rankings, and we're one of the top 28 in the nation. So we're tied with that group. And then there's subheadings for that. And you'll see that we've got Homeland Security and nonprofit management. They're also ranked pretty high in those categories. It's really hard to move up in those rankings because they're done by the deans and faculty, knowing your reputation and what you've been able to do. And we're still kind of the new kid on the block in this regards. Bush School is only about 25 years old. And so it takes some time to establish that and to be able to move up and down in that area. But we got wonderful programs here, and our students are thriving with it. Now, as far as the academic overview, we're going to focus on all of it, and then I'm going to start narrowing down in just the master's program. So as far as the bachelor's degree, just know that about a year ago, we became extended and picked up both political science and international affairs. It was called international studies, and it has now changed. So we have undergrad students here in our building, and the international affairs has absorbed that international studies program. And so those now are undergrads within the Bush School. The political science department has been a long time here at Texas A&M, great reputation. They have both bachelor's and they have a PhD program. They don't have a master's at this time. And that political science department brings in, again, a lot of students into this building. But they don't work with the two programs that I work with, which are the Public Service Administration, International Affairs specifically. So we're kind of growing and changing, and we love the students here. They give a lot of vibrancy here. But the master's degree specifically, I'm going to be talking about the Public Service Administration and the International Affairs. And we'll cover those in a lot more detail as we go along. But know that International Affairs has also branched out, and they now have 3-year degrees. So they've got a combined degree with public health and a combined degree with economics. In both of those, you start your first year or year and a half with those programs after having applied to them and being admitted. And then you would then, after being admitted to our program, you would come into us after having served that year to year and a half. And so all in all, you're doing half of your time, year and a half here and a year and a half there. And then we'll both be able to help you with some funding. Just keep in mind, when I talk about funding, that is only for the year that you're with us. So you would have to talk to the other two departments to find out how that works. There's also what is called an international policy degree. This is more an executive style degree because you have to have 4 years of international experience to even be qualified for it. And that is offered both in Texas and in Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. also came up with a national security and intelligence degree. So that is one of those two that's offered in Washington, D.C. for evening classes for working professionals. So again, that's very similar to what our Master of International Affairs is. And then the Executive Master of Public Service Administration is an online degree. They also require at least 5 years of work experience to be able to complete that. And you would have to spend at least 2 weeks here in College Station over 2 different summers or different semesters. So there's more going to come up on that. Finally, that PhD degree is only offered in the political science department at this time. So I might get inquiries asking, hey, I want to pursue a public service administration PhD. We do not have that. I refer people over to the political science degree. They have a different kind of funding, a different kind of setup. Amy Wynn is the contact for that, and it's on the website if you go under the PhD program, and she can provide you information about that. So I'm not covering that specifically, but it does exist here, and we can get you more information if you're interested. And as far as the academic overview, the graduate certificates are a snapshot. So for instance, if someone wants to just see, what is this program about? I don't know if I want to pursue a full degree yet. They can try their hand at one of these graduate certificates. And you can also get specialties within those. So if someone's looking at international affairs, they may be able to focus on intelligence studies or within diplomacy. Homeland Security has its own certificate. And so students can try their hand at those. In those 4 courses, Homeland Security is 5, to earn that certificate. And then if you decide you really like what you're doing and you want to parlay that into a master's degree, those courses would then count towards that degree. So up to 4 courses from a certificate can count into the master's degree. It will shorten the international affairs, but it only allows you to go fewer hours for the Master of Public Service because you can't graduate early. So for instance, if someone does the CAIA, the Certificate of Advanced International Affairs, before they come into the Master of International Affairs degree, they can shave off the full semester and graduate in December because they've already done a semester's worth of coursework. For the MPSA, let's say you did the nonprofit management, then you would be able to do 9 hours per semester instead of 12. Because we have a full year-long capstone project, you can't graduate early in the Master of Public Service, but you can lighten your load along the way. So there's just an option for some that like to do it. I mentioned earlier, you only have to pay the application fee for doing it. And then as long as your classes are in person, sitting in the classroom here, you're paying the same cost through your MPSA program if you're doing that. So it just depends on your timeline. If you're doing it at the same time you're doing the master's degree, it's very cost effective. If you're doing it beforehand, it's going to cost a little more, which I will go over in just a little bit. All right, Master of Public Service Administration. Let's focus on this for a second. So this is a 2-year, 48 credit hour degree. You are typically taking 12 hours each semester, 12 fall, 12 spring, a summer required internship, 12 fall, 12 spring, and you graduate. That required internship is only for those that don't already have experience. If you come in with somewhere between 3 to 5+ years of experience, it can be waived, and you just work with the Career Services Office for that. There's also a 1-year capstone working for a client. Now, that capstone is led by the faculty, so they've gone out and found the client and the scope of the work that needs to be done, and you're going to hear what those options are, and then you're going to rank order them. So students love having the variety and working with each other and producing an actual consulting type work during their time here. We also have 2 different PH lead-into degrees. So you start the Master of Public Service, but if you've got an interest in education or in public health, and you decide that you want to do more research, focused policy work with those areas, then as you're in the Master of Public Service, you can apply to those PhD degrees and get in early and start taking the coursework that counts for that. As in any PhD level, these are usually about 7-year degrees in doing it. But your first 2 would be with the Master of Public Service. As I mentioned before, you can transfer up to 12 credit hours from a Bush School certificate. Those are those 4 classes we talked about. And you can take some of your courses online. Because we have the Executive Master of Public Service and the certificates, which are offered online, you can take some of your classes through them. But there is a limit on what you can do. And any class you do that's online is going to cost you $1,500 more to do them. And that's just the way those fees are structured for online classes. So most students do their courses here in person, sitting in a classroom, but you do have a little flexibility if you can afford to do it. As far as tracks, we focus on public management, public policy analysis, and nonprofit management. So if you don't know which one you want between public management and public policy, and some schools, they're named that, right? There's a Master of Public Policy. Here, we're a public service administration. You can make your tracks both of your areas. And you don't even have to choose one of the optional concentrations if you don't want to. There's a number of people who just do tracks, and they'll do 2 different ones and take their electives from those tracks. So you have a lot of flexibility in your program in order to develop these specialties, these skill sets you're wanting to do that position you well for finding jobs. So you can see from our optional concentrations, it might be cybersecurity or analytical methods, international NGOs, national defense and homeland security. And you can individually design your own area. So someone may want to come in and work with political speech writing and work with journalism. Someone may want to work with just housing issues, transportation issues, social policy. And there's all kinds of ways you can mix and match classes elsewhere at Texas A&M to make those happen. The Master of International Affairs. This is also a 2-year, 48 credit hour degree, and you have 11 electives to customize. MPSA didn't quite have that many, but you still have some picking and choosing based on your tracks and concentrations. And one additional aspect of this is the MIA does require that students pass a foreign language test to graduate. Now, if you're an international student and English is already your second language, then you're exempt from that. But you do have to complete either an internship or a language immersion between year 1 or 2. Again, unless you've already got some experience you're bringing in and they waive that for you. And you have an ability to do a semester-long capstone working for a client. Only now yours is just that spring semester. There's maybe a few that might do a fall one. So again, you're going to hear those options and be able to rank order which one you want to do. I mentioned earlier there are 3-year combined degrees, one with public health and one with economics. So those that want to have a little bit of both areas, that's an option for you. You can transfer up to 12 credit hours from the CAIA, that's Advanced International Affairs, or the Homeland Security certificates into these without any issue. Their tracks are National Security and Diplomacy or International Development and Economic Policy. Now, their tracks are required and they require 2 concentrations. So anyone who's coming into this degree will need to choose a concentration, and to do that, you fulfill at least 3 classes under that heading. There's probably, in most cases, 8 to 15 different classes you're choosing from, depending on what's being offered that semester. So there's a lot of ability to pick and choose what you like. And even 2 people who are coming to the program studying kind of the same area, their degree plan still won't look the same because they're probably taking a different kind of class than the other person. For instance, this intelligence and statecraft, there's probably 3 or 4 different classes being offered at any time that you can choose from. And so you may not choose something that your classmate did. As far as those combined degrees go, the MIA MPH, Public Health, and the Economics with MIA, you apply to both departments simultaneously for admission. And the Bush School Scholarship, as I mentioned before, it only applies when you're enrolled full-time with us. So if you start with Public Health, you'll need to find out from them what kind of scholarships they offer and if they offer those non-resident waivers like we do. When you're enrolled with us, our scholarship would then kick in, as would that non-resident waiver, which saves you a lot of money. So both of these degrees are 78 credit hours. It's going to be a year and a half with each of us. And again, you'll find more information on the website. It also has kind of what the curriculum looks like for both of those. The Master of International Policy, this is that more executive style. This is a 1-year program. So it requires 4 years of professional experience in the international areas. It's a 1-year, 30 credit hours. We do rolling admissions for this. So we take in students for fall, spring, and summer. You can take up to 2 online courses, but as we talked about before, if you do an online class, it's going to cost you about $1,500 more per course that you do. There's no internship requirement. There's no capstone requirement. There's no foreign language exam required. They've streamlined this to get people in and out. Bush School funding is also not available. So students will have to have their own funding or sponsorship, and they can use military benefits, and some do that. The DC campus, keep in mind, is the same kind of idea, but they're doing evening courses. For us, they're taking classes during the day because you're usually sitting in the same classes like the international affairs students are. Same thing, if you're here in Texas, you get a choice between the national security and diplomacy and the development and economic policy. If you're in DC, you're only doing the NSD, the security and diplomacy. The elective focuses in Texas, you're choosing from all of our MIA concentrations. And then DC, you're just choosing from the national security track. So it's a little less vibrant in the DC area because it's a smaller program, but you're still going to find great classes and great ability to network in those programs. All right, last few slides for me. The grad application requirements. The Master of Public Service, International Affairs, and the combined degrees, our priority app funding deadline is December 15th. The final deadline is January 12th for the MPSA and MIA, and February 1st for the combined degrees. You will find all this information under our website for the admission section. To requirements is we need an application fee, the transcripts, and those are unofficial at the time that you're applying. Need 3 letters of recommendation, a resume, a personal statement. If you're in the international affairs program, you have to provide an international experience essay. So for international students, you're just talking about your life and what you've done and the cultural and the travel and the languages you speak and all that aspect. Just looks a little different maybe than from a domestic student. If you have not grown up speaking English in your school, then you're probably going to have to provide that proof of English proficiency. So a lot of students from Nigeria, they don't have to provide this because they're taught in English. But many others, you will have to provide something. And those are all listed on our website, how you can support that. The GRE is optional. So we encourage it if your GPA is below a 3.2 out of a 4.0 scale. But for anyone who thinks they can do well on it and wants to submit it, we encourage that. For many, it's a test that's $200 and takes a lot of stress. Many are opting out. So we leave that up to you. You're not going to be penalized if you don't supply a GRE. But if you think you can do well and you think it can help you, please do submit it. We encourage that. The Master of International Policy degree, the one that's a one-year program, because they're rolling admissions, they've got deadlines all year long. So you can see those dates. For the fall, you have until April 15th. So you got a little more time than those that are doing for the MIA and PSA. Also an application and fee, unofficial transcripts, 2 recommendations, a resume, personal statement, proof of English proficiency, and same thing, GRE is optional. You can find a lot more details. But for us to talk about the timeline on this, just remember, December 15th is a priority funding deadline. There are certain scholarships that we make nominations for that we have to have them in early so we can get them processed and make those nominations. It doesn't mean that if you don't hit December 15th, you won't receive any funding. We're not giving funding out until March. Just know that we like it earlier so we have time for processing. We're going to get those applications reviewed, put together, and put in front of faculty by mid-January. And they're looking at those as a committee, mid-January to early February. And we will then email you and let you know if you've been invited to interview with us. If you are, then you've given 2 choices. One, can you come to College Station, Texas and interview in person? If you cannot, then I will be setting up a Zoom interview with you with certain faculty. And we will take care of that in February. So you'll be watching your email in late January to set those up. By early March, we'll meet as a committee to make those final application reviews. We're going to discuss the files, discuss the interviews, figure out our decisions, who's in, who's on wait list, who's out. And then we're also going to start tying money to all those offers. So around March 10th through the 15th is when we start emailing all of our decisions to you. You will know in your offer letter how much funding you receive. You will receive some level of funding unless you're in the MIP. And those amounts vary from 1,000 up to 15, and we'll cover that in the next slide. April 15th is the last day that you can let us know if you accept or decline your offer. So that's just being in touch with us. Now, if you're looking at the MIP, those decisions are a little different. Those are made on a rolling basis. So you get a decision within 7 to 10 business days. They do not do interviews. They're basically looking at a different kind of student because they're getting in and out in 1 year. All that is found on our website under the admissions degree section. As far as stats go, MPSA, we have an average stats of around 3.44. You can see our average age, number of females, underrepresented groups, how much work experience those students brought in for that year. And then you see the same thing for MIA. Their average GPA was a 3.63. So just gives you an idea of what that picture looked like for this fall class. And then keep in mind, merit with your experience and fit will affect your scholarship level. So right now, there's nothing additional you have to submit in order to be considered for our scholarships. Those are done at the time that you apply with just for admission. And remember, we're a small school environment. So we're looking at about 80 to 90 students per department. I think MPSA, we ended up right under 80. The IA was right at 90 for theirs this year. You're sitting in classes that average about 16 students. Most classes top at 20. So you're not going to be able to hide. You're going to really get to know the professors and they're going to get to know you pretty well. And if you didn't do your readings from the night before. And then you're learning from both seasoned practitioners and expert professors. So remember, a lot of our faculty are coming in after having done careers in diplomacy or in nonprofits or within a government agency. And they're bringing those to you and teaching you how to work those skill sets. All right, last part for me, funding and cost. So scholarships, in year one, 100% of our students will receive some level of funding. How much you get is going to depend on your merit base and what you look like compared to the rest of the pool. Some years a student might come in and earn a 15,000. The next year it'd be more competitive and they may only got 7. So that part just changes with that applicant pool. You're also going to receive a non-resident tuition waiver if you're not from Texas, and that is worth another $12,700. So what we're doing is knocking that cost from non-residents. Normally you'd pay around $26,000, but if you get a standard scholarship of $5,000 and you receive the waiver, your cost now is closer to putting you somewhere between $8,000 and $10,000 per year, and you have to come up with that part. So for some students, they're going to work. Others are going to look for other positions outside of the school. Others are bringing in their own scholarship money that they did outside of the Bush School or Texas A&M. There's just all kinds of ways you can cover it. And I did an aid webinar earlier this month that you can always go back for and look for more resources. But again, our scholarships range from $1,000 to $29,000. International students are not going to be able to get above the $15,000 range. Those are our top Bush School awards. Those $29,000, there's very few of them, and they're only for domestic students. So 2/3 of our incoming students are receiving between $3,000 and $5,000. In the summer, internship scholarships are available if you get an internship that doesn't pay. And if someone is doing a language immersion, there's some opportunities for them to apply for those. In year 2, your scholarship will renew at that same rate. So if you came in at $5,000, you're renewed at $5,000. Or you can apply for a graduate assistantship position. There's several with our faculty and our staff. If you receive that, you give up your scholarship, and now you're working 20 hours per week to make a higher stipend. Most of our assistantships are paying close to that $20,000 per year range. So in year 2, the only way you can move up is to apply for a GA position. The scholarship is just going to renew right back where it was. The cost, the estimated tuition and fees is listed here. Again, if you're an international student, it's about $30,000 before that waiver and before the scholarship. So your out-of-pocket fees that you're going to have to cover is typically going to be around that $15,000, maybe $10,000, depending on your level of scholarship, which means you have to have some funding on your own. We do not issue the application fee waivers because honestly, if you can't afford that fee waiver, you're not going to be able to afford to go to school here. That application fee itself, you have to have some funding. We do not have full rides for students. There's very, very few, and they're only, like I said, for domestic students. We're talking less than 5. And so you have to be aware of what you can afford and what you get yourself into, because you don't want to go, I can make it work for the first year and I'll get that GA position. If you don't, you still have bills to pay. You still have to pay the rent. You've got to be able to figure out what can and cannot work. So we're just bound to be realistic with what's out there, and we will support you all we can. But the reality is you've got to have some funding. And that's it. So I'm going to pass this over to Matt Upton. He's going to talk for a few slides about professional development. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Catherine. Thanks, everybody, for being here. We just want to give you an idea of what we do to provide professional development resources for graduate students. We recognize that students or individuals don't choose to go back to graduate school just for the fun of going to school, although many of us do love to continue learning. We also want to make sure that you are receiving resources that help you continue to move forward in your professional career. And so the things that we offer are listed here, and I'll provide a bit more detail about each of them, and then also talk about how we help with career services. So we do have a leadership development program and a writing program that are available to all of our students. The writing program, they're not going to edit your papers for you. They're not going to tell you what to write, but they are going to help you become more effective with how you structure your paper. What's your target audience, or who is your target audience, and how do you make sure that you're conveying that message? Our leadership development program starts with some self-assessment. So we use Myers-Briggs type indicator and StrengthsFinder, and then we use that information to help you work effectively in your group projects, especially in that second year for your graduate capstone project. How do your different personalities interplay with each other? How does that impact the work that you do? And then also help you develop an individual development plan so that you can continue to grow as you go throughout our graduate program and even beyond your time here at the Bush School. We have a number of speakers and conferences that are hosted by the George and Barbara Bush Foundation, Presidential Library Foundation, the George Bush Presidential Library, and all of the research institutes and centers and programs here at the Bush School. A number of them have additional speakers and conferences that they host or that they bring in. So you'll have a wealth of opportunities to interact with those individuals. We'll talk about career information sessions as well here in just a few minutes, employer information sessions. And sometimes these speakers will come in a little bit early and they'll do a session specifically on careers in their chosen field. So for example, last year we had the director of the CIA and the director of the FBI here at the Bush School within a few days of each other. And obviously during that time, we also had presentations on career opportunities in those areas or with those agencies as well. We do have a great library system here at Texas A&M University. And so there's an extensive digital and library collections that are available, also interlibrary loans and document delivery across campus. So if we don't have the document here at Texas A&M, another university has that. We participate in a very extensive interlibrary loan program, so you can usually get that. Plus you also have, in certain circumstances, you can get access to the archives from President Bush's time in the White House. From an international standpoint, we do offer study abroad trips regularly. We've hosted those to countries such as Israel, Greece, Germany. Obviously, Israel is not on the list for this year for obvious reasons, but we do have other international study abroad programs that are offered at different times. We have reciprocal exchange programs where you could go over and spend a semester at a university in South Korea, in Wales, in Germany. And then some of our capstone projects, depending on who the client is, it may give you an opportunity to travel internationally or to travel within the state, usually within the state for our public service and administration capstones, or maybe to Washington, D.C. for public service and administration or for international affairs, depending on the client there. Catherine's already talked to you about the language requirement, but in the International Affairs program, you are required to pass that language exam sponsored or administered by the American Council for the Training of Foreign Languages, ACTFL. So that is an oral language exam. Some of our students, in order to make sure that you pass that exam, will choose to do a language immersion between their first and second year of graduate school rather than an internship. Other people feel like they just need a brush up on it, and so they might do a shorter language immersion and then still do an internship. And that can be done at any time during your 2 years, although the department prefers and strongly encourages you to complete your first run at that exam by the end of the fall semester of your second year, so that you don't have that hanging over your head during your last semester of graduate school. We do offer free Rosetta Stone programs, online programs for you. We have language groups that you can practice in that are typically tutored by native speakers or fluent speakers in the languages, and we offer those in a variety of languages. The obvious ones are going to be things like Spanish, French, German, Arabic, Chinese, Mandarin Chinese, Russian. So those are some of the typical ones. And then we've got other people who test in other languages as well. And then I've already mentioned the research centers and institutes here at the Bush School that you can participate in their research programs. Student organizations that are specific to the Bush School. Now, Texas A&M University is a large university. If you're not familiar with it, we have over 77,000 students enrolled. That's graduate and undergraduate. It doesn't feel that big, I promise. Here in the graduate program, it does feel a little bit smaller because we do a lot to work with our graduate students. There are over 1,000 student organizations that you can get involved with that are recognized student organizations at Texas A&M. And there's also a great community to get involved in faith-based organizations, nonprofit organizations, youth development, working with the aging population, a wide variety. But there are some organizations that are specific to the Bush School, and those are our public service organization that does a variety of public service programs throughout the year, serving in the community in elementary schools, with United Way, with nonprofit organizations, with the local food bank. And so that's one opportunity. We also have a Bush School Student Government Association. There is a larger student government association for undergraduate students at Texas A&M, and there is a graduate and professional school government association for all graduate and professional students at Texas A&M University. But we have a Bush School Student Government Association, and in that organization there are committees such as our Social and Traditions Committee. They host tailgates before all of the home football games, sometimes during the spring before baseball games. There's an international connection to help our international students connect within the community. Fundraising and merchandising, selling Bush School for merchandising. We have a green committee, a graduation committee. We also have a chapter of the International City and County Management Association, or ICMA Association. So a great way if you're interested in local government down the road and want to work in that area, you can get involved with that. We have a chapter of the Association of Fundraising Professionals if you're interested in the nonprofit sector or international development and you want to get some experience in fundraising, a great way to do that. Foreign Language and Culture Society is a way for you to get some additional exposure to international opportunities, culture, and those types of things. We have an Ambassadors Council. The Ambassadors Council serves as the official host for Bush School events. All of those speaking events that we talked about earlier, those conferences, our ambassadors typically serve as the hosts for those, also do ushering at different events. And then there are also representatives when we have donors and other individuals who are here visiting the campus. And then, we wouldn't be complete if we didn't give you a chance to use your athletic ability. We know we can't all be college athletes, but we can all pretend or try and use our ability to do that. So we do have intramural teams and athletic teams. We have an annual softball game against the LBJ school down at the University of Texas at Austin, and we alternate between being here in College Station and being down there in Austin. And that just gives you a quick overview of a variety of the options available to you. So probably one of the most important things when making a decision about where you're going to go to graduate school is, if I go to graduate school at this place, can I get a job when I finish? And the answer is yes, at the Bush School. We have a set of career advisors here at the school. I started at the Bush School in career and in career services specifically, and then have grown that team. We have Michael Cochran, who's our Assistant Director for Employer Relations. He hosts a variety of employer information sessions throughout each semester. We're wrapping that up. This week is our last real week of employer information sessions as we go into the finals, is the end of the semester, and then we'll start that back up in the spring semester. The fall semester tends to be focused on internship opportunities and full-time job opportunities that require a security clearance. So anything in the national security space, in the diplomacy space, those are the types of things that our students are focused on now. And then in the spring semester, you'll see a lot more emphasis on those non-security sensitive opportunities, nonprofit, state, local government, and other federal government opportunities that don't require a security clearance. We also offer, if you complete a series of 5 career workshops and some deliverables in the fall, and you secure an unpaid internship, you can also apply for additional internship funding from the school. That's in addition to the funding that Catherine spoke about earlier. So that's a great way to get that. That funding is also available for anybody doing a language immersion. Again, you must complete the required career workshops and submit some deliverables. Those workshops are going to cover things like resume development, putting your LinkedIn profile together, doing a mock interview and recording yourself and getting feedback on those types of things, putting together a cover letter. How do I write an effective cover letter? How do I network effectively with other people? Really important, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, to know how to do that effectively. And our employment rates each year range between 85 and 99% employed for those who respond to us. And just to be clear, our response rates are typically in the 80 to 95% range, depending on the year. And so we've got a really good response rate, and of those that are responding, really strong employment rates. So to give you an idea of the type of employment in the public administration program listed in PSA there for 2022 and 2021, you can see that state and local nonprofit and federal government opportunities tend to be the top three. Whereas if you look in the international affairs program, you're going to see a much stronger federal government opportunities there. That is because of the nature of national security and diplomacy and international development. The government contractor number there, those are typically federal government contractors. They can be state and local, but for most of our students or most of our graduates, those are going to be federal contractors. So you can add that to the federal number and see that in international affairs, over 45, or right at 45% in the last few years has been where we're sending people into the federal government. A lot of times that's in Washington, D.C., but the federal government, U.S. federal government, has also really adapted effectively over the last couple of years throughout COVID to do some more remote work. So even if you're in the Washington, D.C. area working, you're not always in the office 5 days a week. It's typically Tuesday through Thursday or Tuesday through Friday. Mondays, if you've been to DC recently, you'll know that Mondays are pretty quiet in Washington, DC, and Fridays are kind of the same way. People tend to work from home those days. Private sector, you can still find jobs in the private sector. Just we don't send as many people to the private sector for obvious reasons. Continuing education, those are typically going to be either law school or a PhD. I'd love to have a conversation with you if you're thinking about law school or a PhD program down the road, to talk to you about whether or not that's something you want to pursue. And so that gives you an idea of what we do in career services. We also like to meet with you individually when you come in to talk about your career interests, because then we can connect you to individuals at some of these agencies that are listed here. This just gives you a quick idea of some of the federal, state, and local nonprofit and private sector employers that are there. All of this information is also on our website. And you can also see the titles of the positions that our graduates are going into on our website as well under employment information. But you're not going to be surprised probably with many of the federal, state, and local and nonprofit organizations, CIA, DIA, FBI, etc. State and local, yes, we do have graduates who go outside of the state of Texas. So don't think that if you come to Texas, you have to stay here. Surprisingly, we have a number of out-of-state students who end up staying in Texas when they're done. And so it's always fun to see them adapt Texas as their at least an immediate location after they finish. And then nonprofit organizations, everything from the well-known national organizations like the American Cancer Society to local organizations like the Brazos Valley Food Bank or Hope for New York, which is a nonprofit specific in New York City. Okay, so I think that covers everything on my end. My contact information is on the website. If you have specific career questions, I'm happy to have a conversation with you. And I'll also stick on here for just a little bit longer as Catherine wraps this up. So if you have a specific question about careers, I'll still be here.
Thank you, Matt. So at this point, I'm going to stop recording and remind students that if you ever need to check us out, go to the website online. And if you've got questions that you have follow up for Ashley or myself, that's Bush School Admissions. You can even use that same email and I can send it forward to Matt if you can't find his email under Career Services. If you're looking at the Washington, D.C. campus, they've got Bush School DC. And then if you're looking at one of the EMPSA or certificates, you email Bush School Online. So we are all here to help. At this time, I'm going to stop recording. We're going to get this posted to the website in a couple of weeks. So if you ever need to reference it, and then if anyone wants to drop a chat question, or if you want to unmute when I stop the recording, we will take it from there. So thank you guys for your time. Appreciate it.